So day 2 of our Big E was using our brand new vocab words to make sure all of them got put onto our diagram. So we started out by making sure all things were labeled. Here on our picture, we've got our major axis going all the way across the long section of our ellipse through both of our foci points. We also marked our perihelion over here, the point where the Earth is closest to the sun. And we have our aphelion marked where the point where the Earth is farthest from the sun. So we do have to understand and practice in regards to these vocabs. So if you're a flashcard person, Quizlet person, I would chuck those into that study tool to help you, because we need to know what these terms are as we go. So we set up then these two colors, one representing our lowercase q, which is measuring that perihelion distance, and one is measuring uppercase q, the aphelion distance. So on my particular page here, what I'm looking at is this little q measuring the distance of the Earth to the sun, and that should be the closest point. And our big Q over here, again, this is a distance of the Earth to the sun, but now this is a farthest point. And we want to know what happens in the ellipse that makes or determines these distances. And it all has to do with our foci, our center points. And so those we set up in class the first day using our push pins. So this first diagram has a 2 centimeter foci distance, whereas here, this one had a 5 centimeter foci distance. So essentially, this bottom one has a larger foci distance or further apart, while this is closer or smaller foci distance. So we want to know, how does the distance between those 2 points impact our perihelion and aphelion distances? So in class, we labeled these up and we took some measurements. And so what needs to happen here is those measurements need to be used. So to complete the following, you need to then grab these measurements on this video. We're looking for ellipse 1, lowercase q, comparing it to ellipse 2, lowercase q. So looking at my diagram, ellipse number 1, lowercase q, is a distance of 88 millimeters. So that's my first measurement. And this was a little typo on our activity, so we did measure it correctly. Ellipse number 2, thinking about little q, that's a distance of 60 millimeters. Okay? We want to know, comparing the foci of those two diagrams, how does that impact our perihelion distance? Well, this always makes sense to me if we do, let's see, where am I here? I wanted to do a little half screen, but I want to make sure I'm in the right spot. So I'm going to go back here. There we go. So I want to look at our diagram and record some info. So we want to know, how does the foci impact the perihelion? So I'm just going to start my sentence here. When the foci are, and then we get to decide if we want to talk about closer together or further apart, either diagram 1 or diagram 2. So when the foci are, let's start up here with diagram 1, closer together, perihelion is, and we want to look at that data. Well, here in diagram 1, where the foci are close together, I have a distance of 88 millimeters. Here, when the foci are further apart, my distance is now 60. So I can say when the foci are closer together and the distance is 88, that perihelion is greater than the perihelion when those foci are farther apart. I want to do the exact same thing here for Q, big Q. So ellipse 1, big Q is 104. Ellipse 2, big Q, 111. I'm going to basically use the same sentence starter to think it through. How does the distance between the foci impact the aphelion? Again, when the foci are, we'll stick with closer together. This time we're thinking about aphelion. So we're looking at the two diagrams, the blue aphelion measurement. If the foci are closer together, how does that distance being closer together impact my aphelion? So what do I know when the foci are closer together? This number is going to be bigger or smaller compared to down here. That's what you're thinking about for the rest of 13. Okay, these next few, 14, 15, 16, these are all observational and predictable or predict questions based on our diagram. So continue to look at that diagram and answer what you observe and what you predict. Moving on to number 17, you are using these data pieces to create an ellipse calculation. And it's the same calculation that you're doing down here in the big data table, and I made a separate video about that. So if you need help getting your calculations going for the ellipses shown here, you can certainly check out that video, or as always, send me a Schoology message.